What's up, folks? I am joined with Jim Gale, and this is Growing Freedom, foodforestabundance.com, foodforestabundance.com. This guy is on 51 acres of private land, growing his own abundance in food, basically living off the grid, right? Right,
Yep,
Jim?
100% off grid.
Wow. So you're going to teach my audience how to do this
Yes.
and kind of give us a tour
Yes.
around what you have going on there, growing the food, all everything. So, folks, this is a segment about what to do. It's about how to live off the grid. And listen, a lot of people are having that problem. A lot of people are very dependent on all the luxuries, fast food, grocery stores, the whole thing. But what if the grid gets shut down, which is a huge, huge probability now with the war that we are in. So you can never be too cautious. First, folks, before I get into this, get your Tony protein, folks. Nobody likes getting older. One of the biggest reasons why is because our muscles become weaker, making the activities we used to enjoy more difficult to do and less enjoyable. But what if you didn't have to get weaker as you got older? What if you could actually become stronger? Celebrity fitness trainer Tony Horton says he found a way to turn the impossible into a reality. His reality, which is now he's now using to help thousands of Americans remain healthy and active as they hit middle age and beyond. It's actually a lot simpler than you might think. Horton, who is 66, told us. It's a method anyone can do that takes about 1 or 2 minutes a day, and within a very short period of time, you can start to feel stronger and probably healthier than you have in years. Almost everyone begins experiencing some degree of age related muscle loss starting between the ages 40 and 50. It's perfectly natural and nothing to worry about. However, it can make it harder to exercise or even perform routine activities you take for granted, like playing with the kids or carrying in groceries. On average, folks, people lose about 0.5% to 1% of muscle mass each year. While that may sound minor, it can add up over the years and decades. Increasing frailty is a big reason why elderly people, which I'm dealing with now, are more prone to falling down, which can lead to prolonged bed rest or hospital stays, which can lead to more muscle loss and become a vicious downward spiral. Health experts have long believed age-related muscle loss is simply an inevitable aspect of getting older. In fact, folks, the results of this Tony protein are so remarkable. Horton is now the subject of a short report detailing how the body strengthening method works. It's an outline and free for the public to view and share. Go to tonyprotein.com/Nino, tonyprotein/Nino, and get started, folks. All right, Jim, let's get into this. This is interesting. Um, so obviously it's very, very doable. Like this is
Yes.
something anyone can do because when I think about something like this, I just kind of get analysis paralysis when I'm looking through the internet or whatever, and
Yep.
or I just feel like the work is too much. I'm like, dude, I don't have a green thumb. I have cactuses growing out here, and they're the only thing that grows. Anytime I try to plant a lemon tree or anything like that, it just doesn't grow. I don't have a green thumb. It just seems like it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So that is a part of the greatest deception. Back in 1974, Henry Kissinger said, if you want to control the world, control the world's currency. If you want to control nations, control energy or oil. If you want to control people, control food. So food control is a tactic of war, and we are in the big one. And just a real quick, I'll show you around a little bit. Like I've got a handful that I just picked in the last minute of mulberry, which are one of the most nutrient dense berries or fruits you could ever have. And this is Okinawa spinach. So in just a minute of effort, which is enjoyable, I just picked an incredible handful of food. This little handful of food has more nutrient density than most meals that you pay 40 or 50 bucks for at a restaurant, right?
Just a little
And
handful right there.
just this little handful right here. And talk about simplicity. So these are perennial plants. This is a perennial edible landscape. Perennials are plants that you put in the ground one time and they will provide food for generations to come as long as you provide them the habitat and the guild. A guild is a community of plants that support each other. So what we do is we design guilds right? So 2.5 years ago, everything around me was sand. There was no life, not one plant. So we started by putting mulch on the ground. You can't even see the mulch anymore. And then we put this plant called perennial peanut on the ground. Perennial peanut is a nitrogen fixing plant that covers the soil and heals the soil, right? So then we put the mulberry in the ground, and we've done no maintenance to this mulberry or this cherry or the bananas or
So wait,
200.
You're telling me that you got to know what plants that will complement
Yes.
each other and help
Yes.
one another grow. I mean, you can't just
Yeah.
plant a mulberry tree out there. You got to lay the groundwork first.
In many places, you can simply put a mulberry in the ground as long as you have some life in the soil. Mulberries are very hardy. Some plants are less hardy. But yes, to answer your question, yes, you want to make sure that the soil is good enough to support the life.
And what is the name of that plant that you have there growing on the bottom?
This is called Okinawa spinach. It's like a living salad bar. And it's
So you literally
delicious.
just go out there and eat what you want all day.
I just walk around and eat anytime I want. I walk out, I do walking breakfasts almost every day. And sometimes I go harvest eggs and some fish in the lake and have lunch.
So why
on
isn't,
that.
dude, this question remains to me, why isn't it a law that cities don't have their own natural gardens like this for kind of an emergency or whatever? Why aren't we squaring off, hundreds of acres or thousands of acres per each county and growing this stuff for our city, for our towns? Why aren't we doing that?
Because it's a strategy of war. When the English came over here, the first thing were order the troops to kill the buffalo so they could control the indigenous by controlling their food supply. So the amount of destruction, evil, I call it, for lack of a better word, evil, that has went into destroying this Garden of Eden paradise that we call Earth has been exponential for thousands of years. But for the first time in history, we are at the precipice of the new age, right? The apocalypse, the lifting the veil. And we are starting to realize how easy it is. Every one of these plants is literally a free energy system, right? Tesla eats your heart out. This mulberry not only creates calories that are nutritious and good for us, but it has seeds in it. And this system can expand for thousands of miles simply by leaving it alone, taking out the poisons, and letting nature do what nature does.
So everything really obviously is free. I mean, what you just said right now, like about the buffaloes, when the settlers came in and they destroyed and killed all the buffaloes, that was the biggest act of war. I don't, for them to kill thousands upon thousands a year,
Millions.
completely eliminated the Indians' food source. In return, sent them into, was easier to herd them into the reservations. That's exactly what they're doing to us here in America. That's exactly what they're doing. They don't want people knowing this kind of education or having this kind of education.
Brother, you nailed it. That's why what I'm sharing with everybody now is the idea whose time has come stronger than all of the armies of the world. By demonstrating freedom on every conceivable level with faith and courage, we are 100% off grid. We built 10 homes without asking for permission. We publicly have denied the government access. We publicly do not pay property taxes. And I publicly do not pay income taxes. And here's the kicker. The insurance policy, and the reason I'm still alive, is because we are demonstrating the solution to all of the world's biggest problems. And if something happens to me, the message, thanks to you and Mike Adams and all of the wonderful podcast friends that I've been on, will go exponential. It'll go viral. So the only thing they can do to me is squash the message. And that's why my emails are getting hacked, my website, it's all getting hacked, because censorship is the only way to stop this idea from changing the world.
So what would be the basic starting point? How does someone, let's say people are watching this right now, they're like, man, I really want to do this. How do I even start? I know nothing about gardening. I don't have a green thumb. How do I start doing this? Do they go to your website, foodforestabundance.com, to learn, or what? How do they even get started here?
If they want to do that, absolutely. Everybody could do this. It takes zero money, by the way. It just takes resourcefulness, right? So, for instance, I was dead broke. I started a mortgage company when I was 30. It did $1.3 billion in revenue. I bought a Carver motor yacht, lived on the ocean for a year, and then I red pilled back in 2007. And when I red pilled, I had had my first two daughters, and I went into this period of scarcity, of worry, of concern and fear for the fact that the systems are radically unsustainable and evil. And BlackRock, which is not only the name, it is the intention, is black rocking the world. And so I went hyper down every rabbit hole. And then I read Bill Mollison's quote: though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. And I started to bawl. So the only thing that we need to start is the awareness that it's possible. And then once that awareness, that light mente, that enlightenment goes off in the mind, then you start planting seeds, right? If you don't have land, you find somebody who do. If you're living in a condo, you can take a 5-gallon bucket and give it a little LED light, and you can grow sweet potatoes in your closet.
Damn, that easy.
Yeah.
You never have to go to the store. So what do you go to the store for? What necessities do you need to go to the store for?
Zero. Now, we still do go to the store. One reason is because I don't know how to cook yet, but I'm learning. In fact, the team that is coming around this idea, that has been attracted to this idea, is absolutely rock stars. I mean, they're some of the best people in the world at different things. For instance, this fella, Eric Heinzelman, he opened up 35 Planet Hollywoods, and he is coming here to teach us how to walk in the land and turn all of this abundance into delicious, beautiful food on the plate. Right. So that's the kind of thing we're integrating. We're following Dr. Martin Luther King's advice. He said, those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And that's what we're doing.
Wow, I love that. So can you show us around a little bit? I'd like to see what you got there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, well, these are cherries coming in here. These have more vitamin C by weight of that plant than any fruit. This is mulberries. I don't know if you can see all the red
Yep.
and purple, just loaded, right? And this is Jamaican cherries and longans and moringa. That plant right there is the tree of life, the miracle tree, with more vitamin C than an orange, more potassium than a banana, more calcium than milk, and more protein than eggs by weight in the leaves of that
What?
tree.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Wow.
So this whole system, there's guava, pineapple guava.
It's like the true Garden of Eden.
It's like the Garden of Eden and Eden. Absolutely.
Yeah, Garden of Eating. There you go.
Yeah. And so people think that this ideal of the Garden of Eden is a utopic fantasy. It's a myth. Well, I don't know if it's a myth or not about the place, but I know one thing for certain. Here it is. And it's all over the world. This is a baby food forest. It's a very immature food forest. There are mature food forests all over the world, but Hollywood, every scene we see of the Middle East or of old times, they actually take out these types of scenes and they show desolation because they want to project this idea that somehow the world's getting better when it was better. Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying, but most futuristic movies show a very grim, bleak, dystopian future. That's what they all show, you know. But what I'm looking at right here, this looks so easy. I mean, you make it sound so easy that they should be doing this in every city across the nation.
This is
exactly
every backyard, every piece of lawn. There's almost 47 million acres of lawn in the United States alone. The lawn is the physical foundation of humanity's enslavement, taking more glyphosate and Roundup and poisons than any other crop, which kills everything, and it does not provide food. This system is way less maintenance than a lawn and provides epic abundance for birds and butterflies and people.
So what do you do for like the rodents, the insects, anything that comes to scavenge and destroy your crops there or the vegetation? How do you get rid of those? I mean, that has got to
Very
be a
good.
problem, right?
No, not at all. And that's a great question. So, who manages the Amazon rainforest or the jungle or the forest down the
It
street?
has its own ecosystem.
There you go. Diversity is the foundation of strength within the system. So, this system has 260 planted varieties of food producing plants, plus a whole bunch of plants that we didn't plant. So, the monocultures, this idea that big ag feeds the world, is a half truth, and ultimately it's a deception. It does feed the world, but monocultures are unnatural in the world unless they're the grasslands, which get trampled and eaten by the herbivores. So monocultures are destruction. This is called a polyculture. So it's got all the different variety, and then a particular insect or pest cannot get a foothold here.
Do you like unleash cats around there to take? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Yes.
Okay.
I just love, yeah, I love how you think. So we've actually let go black racer snakes. Black racers eat rattlesnakes, right? And we've got two cats here on the
Whoa,
side on the
black
property.
racer snakes eat rattlesnakes?
Yeah, yeah,
How does that? Wow,
yeah.
wow. What? Explain that to me for a second. What is a
So
black racer?
yeah, so some kinds of snakes are predatory on other kinds. So we designed the system to be where we want to live. I don't want to live with rattlesnakes over the place. So instead, we have these beautiful black racers. Look at the butterflies. I don't know if you can see that. The butterflies are flying all around me.
Yeah, I see. That's
Um,
crazy. Wow.
yeah. So Bill Mollison once said, you don't have a snail problem, you have a duck deficiency. So nature always has a solution for nature, for everything.
Okay, so you have the black racers taking care of the rattlesnake problem. What other problems do you have that you found a solution for by introducing other animals into that
Yes, we
garden
have
there?
introduced. Yeah, good question. We've introduced ladybugs. They take care of a bunch of different bugs that eat plants, and we've also introduced praying mantis and another one that escapes me right now, some scientific name. So we've introduced some bugs one time, and once they get a foothold here, it's done. Now, after 2.5 years, we've got such a thriving ecosystem, even in middle of winter, that we don't need to introduce anything anymore. Nature is doing all of the work on our behalf.
So it's the middle of winter right now. So what's growing right now for the middle of winter
Sugar
compared to like
cane.
summer? Let's say like what do you have growing in the summer compared to winter?
Yeah. So all year long here in Florida, there's different crops that are productive at every time of the year. Right now, we got a ridiculous amount of bananas and sweet potatoes and yucca and turmeric and ginger and sugarcane and all sorts of perennial spinaches and loquats and a bunch of more stuff. And then in summertime, we might have way more berries, right? Raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, and grapes. Every fruit that you could probably think of, except for some types of apples that like the cold, we have here. And by the way, if you're in Alaska or Russia or Minnesota and you're listening to this, there are food forests in cold climates that make this look like a baby with hundreds of different species of edible perennial plants. This can be done in deserts, at altitude, all over the world.
So are you a vegan or do you eat meat?
So this is our cattle pasture. So we have cows and chickens and ducks and turkeys. We built a pond here and we put 7 species of fish in the pond. We put sunnies and crappies and bass and catfish, along with mosquito minnows, fatheads, and shiners. And now we suck the water out of the pond on a timer, on a fertigation system, which fertilizes and irrigates automatically at the same time.
So okay, so how do you what you throw a net, catch what you want, you use a fishing pole, how do you get the fish? I mean, how many I mean, you're growing your own food, you have your own
Yeah.
cattle there,
Yep.
you have your own fish.
Yeah.
Is this a daily thing like living on a farm? You got to go out there, grab the chicken, cut its head off, pluck the feathers. What do you do? A lot of
So
people don't want to do that stuff. It's just easier to go to the grocery store and get what they need. I mean, a lot of people watching this might watch this and be like, man, that's a lot of work. I mean, how do you
yeah.
make the money to sustain this? I have a
Yeah.
job at 9 to 5. I can't do
Oh, that's
this.
good questions. So I want to share ROI with you, return on investment, or what I used like to say is return on intention. The intention is to invest my fiat, right? Fiat is shit. And what do we do with shit? We compost it, right? Fiat is going down fast. Every single one of these plants around me is an exponential return on investment. So I put that mulberry in the ground. It was as thick as my thumb 2.5 years ago. And now it produces massive amounts of ROI with no extra energy in. So a food forest is basically, once you get it established, it will produce food forevermore, exponentially with basically very little maintenance. All right. So the return on investment is huge. Cows are a little more work. Chickens, well, eggs are simple.
But
You, you,
you're busy doing this all day long.
I take naps, I go fishing, I do podcasts, and I just hang out with my kids. This is freedom.
But
I
it's a
don't have to.
lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
So if someone wants to do this, they have to give up everything, move off the grid, buy some land, and really make this a lifestyle to live the way you do.
I have given up nothing but my slave shackles. That's
Wow.
the only thing I've given up is my slavery, right? Goethe said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. A lot of folks listening, I love you guys. You might believe you are free, but when you pay by the threat of force and violence, when you pay taxes on your income or your land, then you are a slave by the very definition of it. So this is the literal path to freedom. And I have 22 hours a day. The amount of effort that I put into this system in harvesting and managing is maximum. Actually, it's not even a half an hour a day, quite frankly.
So what do you do for like let's say energy? Let's say you're are you living off the grid when it comes
Yeah.
to like electricity and stuff like that? What do you do? Do you have generators? Do you have
Yep.
solar? What are you using to power your house, your
Yep.
oven?
So there's one of our houses. We are mostly solar. Here in Florida, solar is awesome. In other places, it's a little less efficient. And then we have generators as a backup. But we also are growing all this food that literally creates alcohol and fuel. So you can turn bananas into fuel that can run your generator.
Hold on. Explain that to me. So you're like really you're literally living like the Amish. I
Except
mean,
for I'm not completely against technology. I'm aware of its downfalls, but not against it completely.
you're using your phone right now.
There
But
you go.
yeah, but so explain how you use the fuel of the banana to power a generator or whatever you
So,
use.
yeah, good question. As the banana or the sweet potato decomposes, it releases fuel. It turns to fuel. There's a process, right? And at a certain point, you have a flammable liquid, which is fuel, right? Alcohol, you've heard of that 151 or whatever, where you drink it as it's burning down your throat. It's the same thing with almost all the fruits and vegetables. They can turn into alcohol and wine and eventually fuel.
Let me ask you this, man, and this is just an idea. Now, I don't know if you do this already, but it seems to me like if someone really needed to do this, you should have like courses and like people should be able to go out there and live with you for a week and really learn the system on how to do this. That's the only you got to immerse yourself into it. Like I can't everything you're talking about here is going in one ear out the other. I mean, I'm trying to absorb
Yeah.
some of it, but it seems like it would benefit me, my family, or my friends, people that are watching this. Wouldn't it be better to go see you and like learn
Yes.
from you yourself
Yeah.
and for about a week or two, take
Yeah.
notes, take video, to give classes? Wouldn't that be more beneficial? I mean, you should do that. I'm not saying what you should or should not do, but do you do that already? Because I don't even know.
Yes.
You already do that.
We have an organization, Food Forest Abundance has a product called a Freedom Farm Academy, in which
And hold on, and folks, this is not scripted or any shit, is it? I'm totally going off the cuff here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm just asking questions off the cuff. So you already
Yep.
do that?
100%. We've been doing it now for a couple years. We now have helped people in 54 countries and 50 U.S. states start growing food at home. We have 5 tiny homes. We also have 5 larger homes, and 9 of the 11 total, including mine, are Airbnbs. So we invite people in here to experience freedom. And we currently have a 100% inspired rate. Not one person has ever left here and said this sucks. And our comments on our Airbnb are awesome.
That's funny, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean,
good.
like, so this is crazy. Like, I'm actually interested in going out there and learning this, because I would imagine, like, gosh, man, I mean, how the return on your investment just for life to like buy about, even if it's just 1 acre and do this for your family or your friends, just in case shit happens for insurance.
Yeah.
I don't see, this is very beneficial. This is like the way to go, and everything's free. It's really that simple, right? I mean, people make it so complicated, but it really is that simple, that you could really live off the land and create your own energy with decomposing. What do you say with the yams that decompose?
Yeah. Almost all fruits and vegetables, as they decompose, they release methane and gases that can be used for all sorts of good stuff.
And you do that. You use it.
Yes, I've done. So right now, our toilet on one of our tiny homes, our toilet is hooked up to one of these systems. It's called home biogas, and using sand, it creates pressure, and that pressure pushes the gas through a little yellow tube, and that is hooked up to our cook stove. So we cook using the methane from our toilet.
This is incredible, man.
Yeah.
This is like and it's really that easy. I mean, to me, this sounds like a lot of hard work to learn, but once you learn it, you're set. You don't ever need to, you can live off the grid forever.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, people think that living off the grid means lanterns and outhouses. Nothing could be further from the reality that we are demonstrating, right? We're not talking about a hypothetical solution to cancer and diabetes and heart disease and tyranny and deforestation and mass extinction. We're talking about a demonstratable solution to all of those things. And 14 months ago, I met with Bobby Kennedy. He and I sat down, and I laid out with him a campaign strategy that would change the world. And at first, he thought I was crazy until I started getting into it. When we integrate the schools and the prisons and the churches, when we inspire and call up the schools and the prisons and churches to take the poisons out of their meals and of their land and use their land wisely, if we just did that to the schools, it would change the world.
Imagine how rehabilitating this would be for prisoners if they had acres of this to just work on and cultivate. I mean, instead of making license plates, they could be doing this and feeding not only the inmates, but also the city, like emergency food and stuff like that. If schools did this, I remember when I was in high school, they had Future Farmers of America, right? And then they had like gardens and stuff like that. And it was an elective. You had to like opt in to do it. But like, this should be mandatory for every school everywhere to teach gardening and the cultivation of crops, right? Don't you think this should be a mandatory course and everyone go outside and learn how to do this? But no. They won't do that, will they?
When it is, and it will happen. I don't know how many people will be left on this planet when it does, hopefully a lot. But when it does, every school will become a nursery and a seed of abundance for their community. So we're building a school right here, and we're mimicking nature, and we're mimicking natural communities. And we're also modeling after like the Little House on the Prairie model. We're going to have 25 kids. And check this out, everybody. Everything we do is open source. We have no patents, no NDAs, no non-competes. You can take any of the information we give and you could do it your own way, because we're about saving the world and changing the world. We're not about the fiat, which is collapsing. The current system is done. So we're creating a school here with 25 kids and 3 teachers. The students will learn business, and the business will be managing the nursery and the food production. So as a result of the students going to this school, their families will have all of their food needs met from the school itself.
This is absolutely incredible, man. This is a lot more than I thought we were going to discuss. Like, I'm motivated right now. Like, I want to go down there and check this place out.
Do come.
Can you show me around just a little bit more? Like, I mean, I
Yes.
just see all I see is a bunch of fool. It looks like weeds to me. No
Yeah.
offense, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to show you
I mean,
this.
that's coming from a true place. I'm like, I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell I'm looking at.
Yeah. So this, a lot of people see this as a weed. It's called Spanish needle, and we didn't plant it, right? See all these yellow and white flowers?
Right.
Well, I learned from a true permaculture expert. And by the way, folks, I'm a rookie. I don't know shit about the details of this. I just know that I walk around and I eat food all the time for free.
Wow.
Once you put it. So my point is, with that Spanish needle, this lady said, oh, yeah, all you do is you take a bunch of these flowers. If you're a lactating woman, you put them in a tea and it will massively increase the milk you produce. Right.
Wow.
So all around me, there's these foods.
This is God's pharmacy.
It's God's pharmacy. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I want to show you one thing. It might get a little glitchy, which is why I've kind of hesitated to walk over here, but I want to show you one thing. Can you see that statue right there?
Yep.
So this represents what we are all about. That's not a bat. That's a British police baton.
Oh. And the hand stopping.
Yes. And this is the arm of the former slave who says, no more bullshit. We are no longer accepting your force and violence and tyranny.
Wow, man. Can I see it again? Yeah, that's so cool.
Yep.
Wow. So how long have you been out there?
2.5 years ago, there was nothing here but sand. We moved out here a year ago.
What's the biggest problem you've encountered out there so far? Like, what is like something that my audience would have to know that will happen? What, like, the authorities coming to you all the time, or what is it? What's the biggest problem?
So we declared that we were free about 2.5 years ago, and 14 months ago, a guy from the county showed up, and he was standing over there where I'm building my family homestead, my final future home, and he had a clipboard and a little badge on, and he said, I'm here to see your building permits. Well, we don't ask for permission. The government has lost its moral authority, and we cannot ethically or honorably comply with what they do. So anyway, I shared with the guy. I was recording the conversation. I said, by the way, my name is Jim Gale, and I'm recording this conversation. And this fella said, my name is 𝗬𝗏𝗧. I said, well, it's nice to meet you, 𝗬𝗏𝗧, but how did you get permission to come on this land? It's posted, implied consent is not granted. And I expected him to be a puffy government guy. But instead, he said, I'm sorry, the gate was open, so I came in, but I will leave if you want me to. And that disarmed me. And I said, well, before you leave, I'd like to show you something. Can you come over here with me? So I brought him into this area. And I said, it is our duty for the sake of our posterity and everything we love in this world to steward and to protect this land and to serve our community with the abundance that we create on this land. And a few minutes later, he had tears in his eyes and he said, I'll never bother you again.
What? Yeah. You changed his heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not going to be every time.
If I was in California or Minnesota, where I'm from, I might be in jail right now. Yeah. But if I was in jail, then the message would go even faster. And again, that is my insurance. The transparency and the public-facing nature combined with the service. So we put a food forest in a local school. We are now working with a local pastor to talk about stewardship, which is biblical, and put a food forest at the and then, I got to share about the prisons. This is not a hypothetical solution to recidivism. When inmates participate in gardening programs, the recidivism goes down by 60 to 70%.
Wow. Wow.
That's literally the end of the majority of crime. And we're partnered with Andre Norman. And, or should I say, we're a huge supporter of him. He's created the largest university in the world with Will Dunn called Second Chance University. He has tablets in the hands of 650,000 inmates. And we're going to bring to them the gardening program so they can learn to create life. And we're going to combine Dr. Michael Rice's work, who has achieved a 90% reduction in recidivism by healing trauma, because trauma is the root cause of all human suffering.
You know, I've often thought to myself how much schools would benefit from having a program with like what you're showing, or just the simple act of having a small petting zoo for like puppies and kittens for people to go and seriously, that'd be a huge stress reliever for prisons, schools. I mean, if they just had like a little area, you know, let's say you can only go in there if you attain some kind of good behavior or whatever. You get to go in there and pet a dog or a cat. I mean, that would I think solve so many problems in not only in prisons but in school systems too. And can you imagine implementing both, like marrying this together with like a small petting zoo with this gardening? Dude, violence would go out the window. People would be kids would look forward to going to school to learn how to garden and pet animals. I mean, that's like a necessity. That right there is a solution to me. I mean, the whole world could change.
Yes. And we've got world leaders in different areas that are coming together to inspire and empower exactly what you're talking about. One of my dear friends and partners is Pat Miletich. He was a 5-time UFC world champ. Then he became the best coach in the world, coaching a dozen other world champions. He was hired by SEAL Team 6 to show them how to be superhumans. Well, he's now a soil savior. And him and Dr. Will Spencer have a solution. It's a natural born solution that they've put together that literally eats heavy metals. It literally solves one of the worst problems, the chemtrails and all the poisons and toxicity that's everywhere in our world. Their products, which is a living system, can eat the poisons and shit out bioavailable nutrients.
I would love to come out and see you, man. I think this would be so beneficial, and I could record it or whatever. You're in Florida, correct?
Yep. And we've got the Airbnbs. We're on a private 430-acre lake. So we've got the only dock on this lake. The fishing's incredible. You're going to love it, brother.
Man, if the offer's there, I would love to come out and see this place for myself.
It's absolutely
I'd like to learn as much as I can from this. This is incredible to me.
Yep.
This could be I'm going to Skinwalker Ranch in March, so maybe I could do this right afterwards and film another documentary going to see you.
Do it.
Let's keep in touch, Jim. So folks, go to foodforestabundance.com. I will put that in the link down below. And reach out to this guy, learn what to do. Anything else you want to say? Anything before we sign off here?
I just want to invite everybody to come also to Galt's Landing. In fact, the website for our community here is Galt's, after John Galt from Atlas Shrugged, galtslanding.farm. So it's GALTS landing.farm. And I've given up, by the way, all of my equity and all of the entities other than my family homestead, which is in an irrevocable family trust. And everything else I'm putting back in to win the war.
This is incredible. Jim Gale, folks, give him a round of applause. Give him a thumbs up in the comments. Please reach out to him. Get started on this. We all need to learn this. I'm going to learn this. Thank you so much for joining me, Jim.
Thank you, brother. Good to chat with you.
Seriously, let's bring you on again and see the progress of everything. And I may have not asked all the questions my audience want me to ask, but the next show I will. So let's do a part 2 to this.
Love it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.